The glass shattered against the dressing room wall 6 inches from Bing Crosby's head. November 1954. NBC Studios, Burbank. The backstage area behind Studio One, where they filmed the Colgate Comedy Hour. The hallway smelled like hairspray and cigarette smoke, and the particular kind of sweat that comes from standing under hot stage lights for 3 hours. The walls were thin. You could hear everything. Laughter from the audience. The band tuning between segments. Footsteps echoing on concrete. And now, the sound of broken glass hitting linoleum. Bing didn't flinch. He just looked at the wet spot on the wall where the bourbon had splashed, then down at the shards glittering on the floor, then at Frank Sinatra standing 8 feet away with his hand still raised from the throw. Frank was 38 years old. Thin. Sharp. Eyes that could cut through steel when he was angry. And right now he was past angry. He was shaking. His tie was loosened. His jacket was off. His shirt sleeves were rolled up like he was getting ready for a fight. "You son of a bitch," Frank said. His voice was low. "Dangerous. You think you can just, Frank." Bing's voice was quiet. Calm. The same voice he used for everything. For singing. For acting. For ordering coffee. "You're drunk. I don't care if I'm drunk. You're also loud. And there are people trying to work out there." Frank took a step forward. "You embarrassed me. I made a joke. On national television. It was a variety show, Frank. That's what we do. We make jokes. Not about me." Frank's finger was pointed now, jabbing the air. "Not about my voice. Not about my career. Not in front of 20 million people." Bing leaned against the makeup counter. He didn't cross his arms. Didn't square up. He just stood there, looking tired. Like he'd had this conversation before. Like he knew exactly how it was going to end. "What did I say that wasn't true?" Bing asked. Frank's jaw tightened. "You said I couldn't hold a note if it had handles. I said you rushed the tempo on Young at Heart, which you did. It's my song. It's Nelson Riddle's arrangement. And you came in a half beat early on the second verse. Nobody noticed. I noticed. The band noticed. Anyone with ears noticed." Frank's hands were fists now. "You think you're better than me?" Bing sighed. Not dramatically. Just a small exhale, like he was letting something go. "No, Frank, I don't." "Yes, you do. You always have. The way you stand there with that pipe and that sweater like you're everyone's favorite uncle. Like you invented singing. Like the rest of us are just trying to copy you. Is that what you think you're doing? Copying me?" "No." Frank's voice cracked just slightly. "I'm trying to survive you." The hallway went quiet. Somewhere down the corridor, a door opened and closed. Someone laughed. The sound felt very far away. Bing looked at Frank for a long time. Really looked at him. At the expensive clothes and the perfect hair, and the anger that was barely holding itself together. "You're not trying to survive me," Bing said quietly. "You're trying to replace me." "Maybe I am." "You can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm not going anywhere. And even if I was, you're not me. You're you. And the sooner you figure out that's enough, the sooner you'll stop being so goddamn miserable." Frank laughed. It was bitter. Sharp. "That's easy for you to say. You're Bing Crosby. You've been on top for 20 years. You don't know what it's like to claw your way back up. To have everything and lose it, and have to beg for people to give you another chance." "You're right," Bing said. "I don't know what that's like." He paused. "But I know what it's like to be told I'm finished. That my time is over. That there's someone younger and better coming up behind me who's going to make me irrelevant." Frank's expression shifted. Just barely. "They've been saying that about me for 10 years, Bing continued. "Every time a new singer shows up, the columnists write the same story. Is this the end for Crosby? Has Bing lost his touch? Meet the new voice of America. He smiled faintly. Usually the new voice of America is you, Frank. And you know what I do when I read those stories? What? Nothing. Because they're not wrong. Someone else will come along. Someone always does. The trick isn't staying on top forever. It's knowing who you are when you're not. Frank stared at him. His fists were still clenched, but something in his posture had changed. The rage was still there, but underneath it was something else. Something raw. You humiliated me tonight, Frank said. I teased you. There's a difference. Not to me. Bing nodded slowly. Okay. Then I'm sorry. Frank blinked. What? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought we were having fun. Clearly, you didn't. So, I apologize. The apology landed in the space between them like something physical. Frank didn't seem to know what to do with it. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked away. Just like that? Frank said finally. You just apologize? Would you prefer I didn't? I threw a glass at your head. You missed. I could have hit you, but you didn't. You hit the wall, which means either your aim is terrible or you didn't really want to hit me. Frank's hands unclenched. He looked down at them like he was surprised to find them empty. I don't know what I wanted, Frank said quietly. Yes, you do, Bing said. You wanted me to fight back. You wanted me to get angry, to yell, to prove that I'm just as petty as you think I am. That way, you could feel better about being angry yourself. He pushed off the counter, stood up straight. But I'm not going to do that, Frank, because I'm not angry at you. I'm just tired. Tired of what? Of this. Of the competition. Of the idea that there's only room for one of us. Of watching good singers destroy themselves trying to be something they're not. Frank looked at him. You think I'm destroying myself? I think you're so worried about what other people think of you that you've forgotten to enjoy any of it. The singing, the performing, the fact that millions of people love your voice. They loved it more before. Before what? Before I lost it. The admission hung in the air. Frank looked like he regretted it immediately, like he'd opened a door he'd been trying to keep closed. Bing's expression softened. Your voice is fine, Frank. It's different than it was, but it's not worse. You're just older. We all are. The trick is making that work for you instead of against you. How? Stop trying to sound like you did at 25. Stop trying to sing like me or anyone else. Sing like Frank Sinatra at 38. Sing like a man who's lived enough to know what the songs mean. Frank was quiet for a long moment. That's what you do? That's what I've always done. But you make it look easy. It's not easy. I just don't let people see the work. Frank sat down on the couch against the far wall. He put his head in his hands. When he spoke again, his voice was different, smaller. I'm sorry about the glass. I know, I didn't mean it. I know that too. Frank looked up. His eyes were red. I can't stand the idea of being second to you. Of always being compared. Of people saying I'm good, but you're better. Then stop listening to people. How? Bing walked over and sat down next to him. Not close. Just near enough to talk without raising his voice. You want to know the real difference between you and me, Frank? What? I stopped caring about being the best about 20 years ago. I just wanted to be good enough. Good enough to keep working. Good enough to pay my bills. Good enough to go home at night and not hate myself. He paused. You're killing yourself, trying to be the greatest singer who ever lived. And maybe you are. Maybe you will be. But if you're so busy competing with everyone else, you'll never actually enjoy it. Frank wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I don't know how to stop. Yes, you do. You just don't want to. They sat there in silence for a while. The sounds from the hallway filtered in. Someone called 5 minutes to air. The band started warming up again. Finally, Frank stood up. I should go clean up. I'm on in the next segment. Frank. He turned. The joke I made, Bing said. It was cheap, and it was mean. And you're right, I shouldn't have said it on air. So I am sorry. Frank nodded. Okay. But you still came in early on the second verse. Frank almost smiled. Almost. Yeah. I know. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. You really think I'm good? I think you're better than good. I think you're the most talented singer of your generation. I just wish you'd believe it, even though I threw a glass at you. Especially because you threw a glass at me. Means you care. Means it matters to you. That's more than most people can say. Frank left without another word. The next day was Sunday. Frank had a radio show. The Frank Sinatra Show, sponsored by Bulova Watches. It aired live at 8 p.m. Eastern. Bing wasn't planning to listen. He had dinner plans. But his wife, Catherine, turned it on while she was getting ready, and the sound carried into the bathroom where Bing was shaving. He heard the band, heard Frank's voice, the usual patter, jokes with the announcer, introduction of the first song, and then Frank said something unexpected. Before we get started tonight, I want to say something. Last night I was on the Colgate Comedy Hour with Bing Crosby. Some of you probably saw it. We did some songs together, had some laughs, a pause. Or at least Bing had some laughs. I didn't handle it as well as I should have. Bing set down his razor, walked to the bedroom doorway. Frank's voice continued. Bing made a joke about my singing. It was a good joke. Funny. The audience loved it. But I took it personally. I got angry. And later, when we were backstage, I said some things I shouldn't have said. I did some things I shouldn't have done. Another pause, longer this time. So I want to apologize. Not to Bing, I already did that in private, but to everyone listening. Because the truth is, I've spent so much time worrying about being good enough, about proving myself, about competing with people I admire, that I forgot something important. I forgot that guys like Bing Crosby aren't the enemy. They're the reason I wanted to sing in the first place. When I was a kid in Hoboken, I used to listen to Bing on the radio and think, that's what I want to do. I want to make people feel the way he makes me feel. Bing leaned against the doorframe. Catherine looked at him. He waved her quiet. But somewhere along the way, Frank said, I stopped appreciating that. I stopped being grateful. I started thinking that if I wasn't number one, I was nobody. And that's a terrible way to live. He cleared his throat. So Bing, if you're listening and knowing you, you're probably doing something normal, like reading the paper, or fixing a car, or whatever it is you do when you're not making the rest of us look bad. But if you are listening, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for not hitting me back when I deserved it. Thank you for still being Bing Crosby when the world keeps trying to convince you that Bing Crosby isn't enough anymore. A long pause. When Frank spoke again, his voice was different, steadier. And to everyone listening, I want to say this. If you've got someone in your life who's better than you at something, someone you're jealous of, someone you compete with, someone you wish you could be, maybe try being grateful for them instead, because they're not keeping you from being great. They're showing you what great looks like. And that's a gift, even when it doesn't feel like one. He paused one more time. Okay, enough talking. Let's sing. The band started. Frank sang in the wee small hours. Slow, emotional, perfect tempo. Bing stood in the doorway until the song ended. Then he walked back to the bathroom and finished shaving. Catherine appeared in the mirror behind him. That was something. Yeah. Are you going to call him? No. Why not? Because he said what he needed to say. Anything I add would just make it about me. She kissed his cheek. You're a strange man, Bing Crosby. I know. The next week, Bing got a package. No return address. Inside was a bottle of bourbon. Expensive. The kind Frank liked. And a note. The note said, "For the wall." Sorry about the mess. F. Bing laughed. He showed it to Catherine. Are you going to drink it? She asked. Eventually. When? When Frank and I do another show together. You think he'll want to? I know he will. He just needed to get something out of his system first. The anger? No. The fear. She frowned. Fear of what? That he's not good enough. That he'll never be good enough. That no matter what he does, someone will always be better. And now he knows that's not true. Because nobody's better. We're just different. And different is all you need to be. They did another show together 6 months later. The Bing Crosby special on CBS. Frank was the guest. They sang together, they joked. They made it look easy. Backstage afterward, they shook hands. You rushed the tempo again, Bing said. Frank grinned. I know. I did it on purpose this time. Why? Because I wanted to see if you'd say something. And you did. Which means you were paying attention. I'm always paying attention, Frank. I know. That's why I keep coming back. They worked together dozens of times after that. Movies, TV specials, concerts. They became friends. Real friends. The kind who could fight and forgive and laugh about it later. But people always remembered the glass. The story became legend. Whispered in green rooms and recording studios and late-night bars where performers went after shows. Frank Sinatra threw a drink at Bing Crosby. And Bing just apologized. Most people got the story wrong. They said Bing apologized for making the joke. That he backed down. That Frank won. But the people who were there, the musicians, the stage crew, the makeup artists who cleaned up the glass, they knew the truth. Bing didn't apologize because he was weak. He apologized because he understood something Frank was still learning. That strength isn't about never backing down. It's about knowing when fighting back will only make things worse. That pride is easy. Humility is hard. And that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is give someone the grace to be wrong. Frank understood it eventually. Took him years, but he got there. Near the end of his life, in one of his last interviews, someone asked him about Bing, about their friendship, about what he'd learned. Frank was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Bing taught me that you don't have to destroy someone to prove you're good. You just have to be honest about who you are. And if who you are is enough for you, it'll be enough for everyone else. The interviewer asked if he had any regrets about that night. About the glass. Frank smiled. Only one. What's that? That I missed. You're glad you missed? Hell no. I wish I'd hit him. The interviewer looked shocked. Frank laughed. I'm kidding. Jesus. Of course I'm glad I missed. If I'd hit him, he would have forgiven me. And then I would have felt even worse. Why? Because being forgiven by Bing Crosby is like being forgiven by your conscience. It doesn't make you feel better. It makes you realize how much you should have known better in the first place. He paused. And that's the worst kind of lesson. Because you can't forget it. Did you ever tell him that? No. But he knew. How? Because 20 years later, on my 60th birthday, he sent me a bottle of bourbon. Same brand I threw at him. And a note that said, for the next time you need to break something, just aim better. Frank kept that bottle on his shelf until he died. Never opened it. Never drank it. Just kept it there as a reminder that the best friendships aren't the ones where you never fight. They're the ones where you fight and forgive And remember why you started caring in the first place. And that sometimes, the person you're really competing with isn't the guy across from you. It's the guy in the mirror. And until you make peace with him, you'll never stop throwing glasses.